Welcome to today's lesson on estimation using multiplication. Today we're going to be estimating to be able to find the product when you're trying to multiply numbers. Let's go ahead and get started. We are going to begin today by trying to estimate the product of 27 times 33. Now remember, estimation is giving an educated guess. So we're going to estimate the product of these two numbers. Since our numbers only go to the tens place, we're going to start by rounding each of these numbers to the nearest 10. So we're going to start with 27. In order to round to the nearest tens place, we need to underline the place value that we're rounding. Our next step is to look at the number directly to the right of our underlined number. If this number is 5 or greater, we're going to round our underlined number up by 1. So we're going to round 2 up to 3, and then cross out our remaining place values and replace it with a 0. So we've now rounded 27 to 30. Let's go ahead and round 33 to the nearest tens place. We're going to underline the tens place, and then we're going to look at the number directly to the right of the tens place. Since 3 is less than 5, we're going to keep 3 the same and replace our remaining place values with 0. So we've rounded 33 to 30. Now this is going to make it a lot easier to be able to estimate the product of these two numbers. In order to do so, all we have to do is multiply our first numbers together. 3 times 3 equals 9, and then add on our remaining zeros. So we have 2 zeros. So 27 times 33 has a product of about 900. Let's walk through a practice problem together. This time we're going to be rounding to the hundreds place. Alright, let's try 249 times 358. We want to estimate the product of these two numbers. To do so, we're going to round to the hundreds place. Do you remember our steps? Step 1. Underline the place value that you're rounding to. Step 2. Look at the number directly to the right of that place value. Since 4 is less than 5, we're going to keep our 2 the same and replace our remaining place values with 0. So we've rounded 249 to 200. Let's go ahead and round 358 to the nearest hundreds place. We're going to underline the place value that we're rounding and look at the number directly to the right of it. Since 5 is 5 or greater, we're going to round our 3 up to a 4 and then replace our remaining place values with zeros. So we rounded 358 to 400. Now we can estimate. 2 times 4 equals 8, and then we fill in 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 200 times 400 is about 80,000. Let's try a practice problem together. Now remember, when you're trying to estimate through rounding, if you can't decide whether to estimate to the tens place or to the hundreds or to the thousands, think of how specific you want your estimation to be. If you want it to be more accurate, you're going to round closer to the tens place. If it can be a little bit broader of an estimation, then you can round to the hundreds or the thousands place. So let's go ahead and look at our problem here and see what place value we need to round to. Lizette is painting the hallway in her school. She wants to make sure that she does not run out of paint. 1 can of paint covers 400 square feet. Lizette knows that the wall of the hallway is 14 feet tall and 49 feet long. Will Lizette be able to use 1 can of paint? Estimate using multiplication. Well, we need to know if 1 can of paint will cover 14 feet times 49 feet. So let's estimate. We're going to multiply 49 times 14. All right, well let's decide which place value to round to. Since both of these numbers only go to the tens place, we're going to be rounding to the tens place. So we have our tens place underlined, and we're going to look at the number directly to the right of the tens place. Since 9 is 5 or greater, we're going to round our 4 up to a 5, and then replace our 9 with a 0. So we're going to round 49 to 50. Let's look at 14. we've underlined our tens place, and we're going to look at the number directly to the right. Since 4 is less than 5, we're going to keep our 1 the same and replace our 4 with a 0. So we're rounding 14 down to 10. Now it's pretty simple. 5 times 1 equals 5, and then we have 2 zeros to add on. So that means that the hallway is going to be about 500 square feet. And we know that 1 can of paint only covers 400 square feet. So that means that Lizette will have to use more than 1 can of paint. Let's take a moment to review what you've learned in today's lesson. When you're trying to multiply numbers, sometimes it can be helpful to estimate the product by rounding. So let's go ahead and walk through a few examples together. If we wanted to find the product of 18 times 12, and we wanted to try to estimate the product, our first step could be to round to the nearest tens place. So if we underline the tens place and then look at the number directly to the right of the tens place, we can go ahead and round. Since 8 is greater than 5, we're going to round our 1 up to a 2 and replace our next place value with a 0. So we rounded 18 to 20. With 12, we're going to look at the place value next to the tens place, and since 2 is less than 5, we're going to keep our 1 the same and fill in our remaining place value with 0. So we rounded 12 down to 10. 2 times 1 equals 2, and then we have 2 zeros to fill in. So that means that 18 times 12 is about 200. Now sometimes you're going to be working with larger numbers. For example, if we wanted to estimate the product of 203 times 462, we could round to the nearest hundreds place instead of the nearest tens place. In order to do that, we're going to follow the same procedures as we did before. You need to underline the hundreds place and then look at the number directly right to the number you underlined. Since 0 is less than 5, we're going to keep our 2 the same and replace our remaining place values with 0. We're going to look directly to the right of our 4, and since 6 is 5 or greater, we're going to round our 4 up to a 5 and replace our remaining place values with zeros. So now we're going to be estimating the product of 200 times 500. 2 times 5 equals 10, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros to add on. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means that the product of 203 times 462 is about 100,000.